Marketing an environmental consulting firm requires getting the attention of buyers, but the moment you actively market the business, you risk exposing the sale to the public. If word gets out too early, the asset you are trying to sell can fracture from one microscopic crack in confidentiality. Consider a recent California transaction. A specialty subcontractor caught wind of an unusual site visit and casually mentioned it to a field technician over lunch. Within 48 hours, that rumor traveled from the field directly to the firm's licensed leadership. Unsure about their job security under unknown new owners, two key engineers holding the firm's responsible charge credentials resigned by the end of the week. This node graph illustrates the immediate financial fallout. Without those licensed engineers, active project schedules slipped. Seeing the sudden operational risk, the prospective buyers pulled their offers, and the firm's enterprise value plummeted instantly. Enterprise value in environmental mergers and acquisitions is highly volatile. It depends entirely on the stability of your licenses and contracts. Running a standard open market M&A playbook broadcasts your intentions, actively destroying the exact value you are trying to sell. An environmental firm does not operate in a vacuum. It relies on a dense, interconnected ecosystem of external partners to execute daily field operations. Drillers, analytical labs, and waste disposal facilities are highly perceptive. They are the most dangerous leak vectors because they immediately notice unusual document requests, sudden audits, or out-of-character site visits by unknown executives. The environmental services sector is small. Once a vendor notices an operational anomaly, the industry rumor mill turns a minor observation into widespread speculation about the firm's financial health or ownership status. To counter this, sellers must deploy a highly sequenced four-phase architecture based on the principle of least privilege access. This process is specifically designed to lock down information and maintain strict compliance with California state regulations. A premium valuation relies on engineering a strictly gated information flow that keeps the market blind until the optimal moment. Phase 1 isolates the pre-market preparation. Before a single buyer is contacted, all marketing materials must be meticulously sanitized. This is a blind teaser. It is the initial document sent to buyers to communicate the firm's scale and scope, such as revenue ranges and end markets, without revealing its identity. To construct this document safely, the seller must scrub all site identifiers, specialized permit details, and recognizable public contracts. Nothing that could reverse engineer the firm's location or client base can remain. Every distributed teaser is embedded with a unique, dynamic watermark. If a document leaks, the specific recipient can be immediately identified. Internally, the knowledge perimeter is restricted to an absolute minimum. Only the owner, the M&A advisor, and legal counsel are aware that a transaction is being explored. Initial outreach exclusively targets strategic acquirers, like private equity platforms with an active West Coast footprint. Because they already hold qualifications for California public work, they require far less early disclosure to grasp the firm's operational value. By isolating this pre-market phase, the seller guarantees that if a buyer walks away, the firm's anonymity and operational stability remain completely intact. Phase 2 moves into active buyer marketing, which requires opening up financial data while legally plugging the subcontractor vulnerability. Before any diligence data is gathered from the field, purpose-limited vendor non-disclosure agreements are deployed to any specialty subs or labs involved in the data pool, legally binding them to silence. After signing an NDA, Tier 1 unlocks, while Tier 2 remains off-limits. Tier 1 reveals redacted financial aggregates and anonymized safety records, obscuring specific names. The data room functions as an active security perimeter, generating daily access logs to monitor exactly what buyers view. During this phase, all management calls and buyer meetings are held entirely off-site or after hours, ensuring that field staff never observe unusual executive behavior. Treating diligence technology as a rigid security perimeter prevents buyers from reverse engineering the firm's exact identity or client list before they have committed capital. Phase 3 dictates that no further access is granted until the buyer submits a formal letter of intent. To unlock the Tier 2 virtual data room, the buyer must raise their barrier to entry by providing explicit proof of funds or a formal lender interest letter. At this stage, buyers need to see competitively sensitive items like exact pricing models and named customer cohorts.
but sharing this raw data is highly dangerous if the buyer is also a regional competitor. This diagram maps the clean team protocol. Highly sensitive data routes exclusively to a designated group, completely bypassing the buyer's internal operations team. The clean team consists entirely of outside counsel or strictly walled-off buyer personnel. They are legally prohibited from sharing the raw data with the buyer's active bidding team, only reporting back high-level valuations. Simultaneously, the seller and buyer must align on the exact deal structure. Whether the transaction is an asset or a stock purchase will dictate the specific regulatory hurdles required to close. The clean team mechanism allows buyers to verify the exact financial value without handing them the raw ammunition to poach clients if the deal collapses. Phase 4 addresses the final weeks before closing, requiring strict navigation of California's aggressive labor and engineering regulations. Retaining key talent requires navigating Assembly Bill 692, which places strict legal limitations on stay or pay repayment clauses for employee retention. Retention pools must be carefully structured under these rules. Sellers use milestone payouts and period-end bonuses to incentivize staff, avoiding any unlawful clawback provisions if an employee decides to leave. The timing must be exact. These legal retention packages must be fully drafted and ready to execute within 24 to 48 hours of the first internal staff briefings to preempt panic and secure loyalty. For engineering firms, Title 16 of the California Code of Regulations outlines the concept of responsible charge. It places a legal mandate on licensed engineers and geologists to maintain continuous supervision over any stamped work. This document outlines the mandate for continuous supervision. To comply, sellers must pre-identify alternate license holders, so if a primary leader resigns, an alternate can immediately step in to ensure zero gaps in project oversight. Internal disclosure in California operates as a synchronized legal maneuver, locking in technical talent before the rumor mill can trigger a mass exodus. Once the internal team is secured, focus shifts outward to external government oversight and public contracts. If the sale is structured as an asset deal, the seller must execute a federal novation. This process legally requires the federal government to formally recognize the new buyer as the successor in interest. Timing is critical. Discussions with the contracting officer must be strictly delayed until after the letter of intent is signed, ensuring the seller doesn't trigger premature government audits. Simultaneously, the seller stages background updates for air and water permits and prepares OSHA HAZWOPER medical records for a seamless transfer on day one. Controlling the exact sequence of regulator notifications prevents sudden bureaucratic delays from freezing daily operations or spooking the buyer during final diligence. A zero-leak architecture seals the value of the firm, demonstrating to buyers that strict operational secrecy guarantees a flawless transition. This level of confidentiality requires absolute operational discipline. It relies on daily data room monitoring, strict vendor non-disclosure agreements, and a delayed internal disclosure schedule. Protecting the firm requires executing the four-phase sequence flawlessly, forcing the market to remain entirely blind until the buyer's financial commitment is absolute. The ultimate measure of a successful environmental M&A transaction is one where the engineering stamps remain valid, the field teams arrive on site, and the firm never misses a single billable hour.